Grip World. This is Napalm Jedd Johnson. I'm joined today, as always, by Alan Heineck and James Retarides, and we have a very special guest to talk about today's topic of big hand stories, and it's Rob Vigeant. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me for the call today. How's everyone doing?
I'm good.
Where do we
good?
begin?
Thanks for having me on.
I'm doing good.
Great. So just if people are not aware of who Rob Vigeant is, Rob I've known since at least 2003. He was at the very first grip contest I ever went to, the Battle for Grip Supremacy. It was put on by Rick Walker in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, the same exact town where we get the prognosticator story, the groundhog, the famous groundhog, Punxsutawney Phil. And it's also the origin of really grip contests on the East Coast. But Rob has since become one of the biggest names in arm wrestling, maintaining a high level in arm wrestling as a drug-free competitor for many, many years. And he's also the current WAL middleweight champion. And we're delighted to have you on board. Rob, thank you for joining us today, dude.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. It's been a little bit since we caught up.
Yeah, it's true. I think probably the last time I saw you was in 2016 up in Syracuse. Was that about right?
Yep.
Yeah, and so it's good to have you on. We haven't had an interview in a while, and I don't think we've had an arm wrestler on, like a devoted arm wrestler, for quite some time either. So it's going to be a real cool show. Rob, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started in grip and arm wrestling, and that'll get us flowing.
Yeah, I always growing up, I come from a blue collar family, and they're all a little bit rough and tumble, and being strong was kind of, you were more respected if you were strong in my family. They appreciated the strong guys, and my family's my father's genetics, my father and my Pepe are all big-handed, big forearm guys, so they gravitated towards the feats of strength that were, conducive to hands and wrist and upper body. So that's kind of what I grew up around, that every kid to some degree probably wants to be like their dad. So, I just grew up with an appreciation and a fascination for hand and wrist and forearm and, just strength in general. But a lot of, when I looked at animals in the zoo, I always loved gorillas because I was fascinated by their power output through their something that you can put your hands on. I mean, to me, squatting weight is cool and deadlifting weight is cool, but there's something about when someone can put their hands on you, it just seems more real. And when I just found Captains of Crush online, probably back in 2001 or so, and I saw that they had this list, and, I kind of just started finding the world of grip and feats that were out there, and my cousin got on board with me, and we just basically sought out a tournament one day as it grew. We were arm wrestling, and hand and wrist strength was something we always played around with. So, you're curious about how good are you, how you stack up, and meeting people with common hobbies. So that's what brought us to Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and, if I can just chime in for a second, I think when I met Rob, I met you and your cousin, I want to say it was at the Fall Classic in Connecticut in 2004. And yep. I remember talking to you about Captains of Crush Grippers. I don't know if it was then or if it was like shortly thereafter training at Vic Sargent's house. But I remember, I can't remember if it was you or your cousin Rob who had said that you had basically within 2 months of getting a number 3 gripper been able to close it.
Yeah, I closed it pretty quick. I think originally I had one of those weirdo 3s that was almost like a 4. So I was pushing really hard to close it. I was listening to some of the stuff on the grip board, about negatives and whatnot. And I was getting really close on it. And then I grabbed a different one that my cousin grabbed, and I could rep it out pretty easy. So I think I had one of those really hard threes. But, yeah, it was only like maybe a month or two or something from getting it, yeah.
Yeah. And my introduction to Rob was, I remember there was a kid named Stephen LaRue. I say a kid, he's probably like 35 now. But there was a kid named Stephen LaRue that used to go around and film videos in New England of arm wrestling events. And I remember there was a video where you had showed up at a tournament. I think Bill Sinks, who was, another huge-handed guy, and Jerry Cole was there. And it was like your first or second tournament you had beaten Jerry Cole, which, for people who don't know, like Jerry Cole was one of the better 176, 198 guys. And he was basically the guy that almost put an end to Dave Patton's career arm wrestling. Like, Dave Patton was all-time great, probably the only guy with a winning record on Jompers Inc. And Jerry Cole actually was responsible for tearing the bicep of Dave Patton. So Rob comes into the sport and beats Jerry Cole, like, immediately.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that tournament. I remember Stephen LaRue. I used to have his DVDs, and I would watch him religiously, like, all night long. My ex at the time thought I was a fucking psychopath.
Well, mine stayed with me, even though I used to do the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a real trooper.
Yeah.
But, the story that I like to tell about Rob related to grip was, and I think it was the first time that you and I ever trained together, it was at Vic Sargent's house, and it's back when Cheyenne, his daughter, was like 4 or 5, and Rob told her, like, jump on my back, and she squeezed around his neck, and Vic had a Rolling Thunder hanging from like an eye bolt in the ceiling, and Rob did a one-arm pull-up with her on his neck. It was
oh wow.
Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. But that was probably the first time I saw something like that and was just like, wow, like what the hell are we dealing with here? So
a weirdo.
Yeah, exactly. Some kind of alien.
Yeah, I mean, I still do stuff like that because that's a good carryover. I mean, as you know, I mean, we went in reverse directions. I went from grip to arm wrestling. You went from arm wrestling to grip. But if you use like thick handles right, I mean, it is very conducive to arm wrestling.
Oh,
I still do stuff like that. I wish some of the stuff I had recorded from back in the day, because you think you're going to have that strength forever, but sometimes with life and injuries, it's not always the case, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because Jedd had asked me to see if I could get some info from you for an intro, and one of the things you had said to me was like a lot of the stuff that you did would still be considered or be around world record stuff now. It's just nobody really filmed it or recorded it. It wasn't like officiated or anything like that. So
right.
So yeah.
It's sad.
Well, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just saying it's sad because when you're a kid, you think you're going to have that level of physicality, or you're going to have that strength forever. You think you're always going to be able to do things like close a 4 on demand, or some of the stuff that I did when I was like pinching a hub and all those things that are really cool. And then you don't do it for a long time, or you pick up an injury, and you almost wonder like if you were lying or you were misled. You're like, was I actually doing that? You think you're going to have it forever, and time goes by, and But I had done some good lifts.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think the last time you and I spoke about this sort of stuff, we were talking about doing hammer deadlifts, and how I think you were saying that you were able to do a 10, way back when, before it was really kind of a thing. Like you could grab the back of a 10-pound hammer and pull it off the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, I did a lot of like stuff with hammers because, again, going back to like being a kid, that's construction. A lot of the old timers would try to pick up the hammers and move them around and do stuff like that and touch the hammer to the nose. So I think very early on I learned about when I started reading about strongman. I think it was it John Grimmick that had the lever record, the front lever.
I think so. Yeah, he had the what was it called? The the lever stick?
Yeah.
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 And they said like, if you could even do 5 pounds on the weaver stick, like that's an incredible wrist. So when I read that, I started playing around with things like that. So I don't know if it was genetic or work or just something I just always toyed around with, but I always had a really strong wrist in that motion of
I think
a front lever.
I think it's both too. I think it's like, we've talked about it before, how like there's these guys who come in and they're just genetically unbelievably gifted. And Rob, you've been around arm wrestling long enough now to know that these guys just show up out of the woodwork sometimes. And some of them just rely on their genetic gifts. And very few and far between are the people who have the genetic gifts but also put in the work. And,
right.
So if you're, nobody can fault somebody for having genetic gifts if they also put in the work. So you've been one of those guys that's done that.
Yeah, I try. I mean, when it comes to anything like that's a hobby, I mean, when you have little kids in life, I mean, sometimes things got to take a back seat. So I don't feel I've got to put in the work of some of these guys who, don't have kids and they don't have anything else going on of importance. They're just, train. But I'm doing what I can do. So sometimes it just is what it is.
Yeah, and hey, I mean, congratulations on your last win. Who does the WAL have lined up for you next?
There's things in the rumor mill. I'm not sure. It may be the winner of Paul Talbot and Paul Lynn. I've heard about them maybe bringing over a couple guys from overseas.
Mm-hmm.
Will Todd Hutchings lose weight and come back down? It's rumor mill stuff. So I'm just kind of keep myself in a space where I'm ready for whatever they got coming.
Yeah, and I'd like to mention that too, that, under 200 pounds, I can't think of anyone else this side of John Berzink other than Rob that's been able to beat Todd Hutchings. So, I mean, I don't know. There might be some, Rustam Babiev.
Right.
But
I
other
think
than that, I can't.
Rustam probably, yeah. It'll be interesting. I've never got to pull Todd healthy and heavy. I've always when we pulled, I was a true 195, and he was coming down from 230. He was great at the cut game, cutting weight. So he'd be 230. I was a true 195, and I had torn my rotator cuff, Barbie, in 2012, and I never got surgery on it. So for about 5 or 6 years, I was pulling with literally, no sideways pressure, no side pressure. All I had was basically good hand control and a bicep. And, sometimes if you can't go sideways, it's very hard at that elite level. And I was managing to win, but that's where I had problems with Todd, was he was so much sideways. And I think now that my shoulder is good and my side is getting stronger again, it could be a very different outcome than our past meetings.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the other things that I would wonder about too is, have you been curious about pulling with Rustam?
Yeah, I'm in that place where before I got hurt, I felt like I was competitive with anybody. I was racking up wins with guys like, Travis and, Don Underwood when Dog was rolling hot. And, I felt strong with pulling guys like Berzink and everything. So I was rolling good, and then I hurt my shoulder, so it set me back. But I'm getting to a place where I feel like I'm back to that spot where I can even compete with the heavyweights. And, I don't look at those guys overseas like they're some mythical creatures. I would absolutely pull with anybody. One of the guys they're talking about bringing over is a top gun that is very well respected in Europe. I think Neil Pickup was mentioning they're going to try to get maybe Hermes Gasparini.
Yeah.
So
I saw his matches with Michael Todd from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, so I would pull with Russell. I'm not really too concerned about anybody. I feel like where I'm just starting to make grounds again. I feel like I'm starting on the ground floor all over again because my training regime was off for so long with life and injuries that it's almost like I'm starting over. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely think that I'm competitive in that match.
Well, that's good. That's good. So, I mean, I got to ask, even though I watched the match, how did Tullier feel?
He felt good. It was a whole different game than what I've ever been exposed to. He showed in heavier and stronger than he's ever been, per what he said. And the way we got started up and set up and started, I had to pull that match on just a bicep. He was kind of coiled over the top of me in the start. He's incredibly explosive, and his manipulation with the setup is something that was like, I don't know if it's just that I'm used to grabbing and going, or he had a way of pulling the whatever he wanted with the refs and manipulating it. But I just felt like I could never engage what I needed to engage. So he got everything he needed, and the beauty of the match is when somebody gets everything they could possibly want and you beat them in their lane, that's like they can't take it away from you and say the what ifs. So it felt good, but once I got him center table. Once I got him center table, I felt I was stronger than him by a deal.
Yeah. Well, he looked very explosive, especially in that first match. He looked like he had a lot coming across. And
he had a lot coming across. By match 3, I had to accept the fact that he was going to dictate the start, because I just I felt mute. Like I couldn't, what I wanted to do to make myself get a fair start was kind of like, no, you're going to eat it and deal with it. And he was just able to fire and get everything he needed right from the go. He had a lot of strength, and those pads are longer and they're thicker, so he can really play that back row. That he can really play with the pad a lot more, so it really gives him a lot of extra torque.
I noticed that. That kind of a pad, especially if it's not cushy, it favors a really technical puller, usually a very technical outside puller specifically. So
right, and that's where I ended in trouble, is I couldn't really pull with my hand. I couldn't pull him out because every time I tried to back up, it was like he was chopped down on me. So it was basically like I was getting in more trouble than I was making ground, So it was a good match, but I think even somebody stronger than him and better than him, be less explosive, would be an easier match for me, because they'd allow me to engage my strengths more. You know what I mean? Sure. I'd have more time to engage my strengths, as opposed to always playing like a defensive sitting on my bicep, which when you get into arm wrestling for more than a minute, that's not optimal.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's the thing too. It's like, that's why I try to tell as many people as possible, if you can manipulate the setup, do it, because you don't want to start a match in a deficit, especially against a really good puller. So
right, but exactly.
But you got that bicep strength, my friend. So I know what that's like.
Yeah,
just turning and letting people bang away on your bicep. Sometimes it's like you can wear them down and then finally find a lane with them.
Yeah, it's good. So they say it's not that important in arm wrestling, but the reality is you do lose matches by, at some point in time, your bicep opens, whether somebody leverages you or out angles you. It is from your bicep angle opening, and if you can keep it in your back pocket, where worst case scenario you're sitting on your bicep, it's nice to have as a tool. And basically, that's the thing that got me through that match.
Yeah, and for people who say that it's not that important in arm wrestling, I don't know. I don't know what they're watching or what they're competing in. Because,
right, exactly.
Because it's absolutely important. Look, arm wrestling very much won from the top down. So, like, if you can control somebody's hand and wrist, obviously that's your game. Unless the other person just has way more power than you, if you can control the hand and wrist, you're most likely going to win. But, once you get beyond the lower arm, the bicep comes into play. So does the tricep, so does the pectorals. And I don't know how you've been with this, Rob, but for me, I've always felt like a monster coming across the table when my shoulders are strong and healthy.
Right. And that's why I say for all these years I was winning, but I wasn't the same person, because my shoulder, when it's banged up and that chain, you can't really deliver the other power from like your back and chest and everything to your arm, because your shoulder's the connector, right? When there's no integrity there, I 100% agree. Shoulder health is big, and there's all those big muscle groups come into play.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to monopolize the call with all arm wrestling stuff. I do think that there's another really cool story about Rob with the inch dumbbell. Now, I've heard two different stories regarding you and the inch dumbbell. Now, the first was that you showed up in an event, and there were some guys, like before the contest, playing with it, like in a driveway or something, or a parking lot, and that you had never seen it before, and you walked up to it and picked it up. Now, where was that?
Yep. That was at Punxsutawney, the Battle for Grip Supremacy that Jedd was talking about. And, I remember I heard about the inch. I heard the stories. I saw the picture of Bill Casimir cracking it, like, off the ground up to about his ankle or something. So I was super curious about it. And they had one there at Rick Walker's house. And I didn't think much of it because I was going to a tournament with, at the time, what I thought was, probably the best grip guys out there. And I figured that it was no big thing to go pick it up. And, I walked up. I was curious. It was before the event. And I pretty much deadlifted it both hands. But I didn't put as much weight into it as, other people were like, who the fuck is that? But, the first time I saw it, I pretty much deadlifted it both hands.
Yeah. Now this could be something that I'm creating in my head, or maybe it's something that someone else told me, and I don't know why I'm attributing it to you, but was there a store somewhere in Massachusetts, like a sporting goods store, and you walked up with an inch dumbbell in it?
No. Might be someone else.
You. Yeah. All right. Yeah. You meet as many people as I have. The stories, sometimes they get jumbled up a little bit.
Yeah, I know my buddy bought an inch off of, he got it through Jedd, and he keeps it in his tire shop. So, you know Darren Quartermarsh.
Yeah, I remember Darren. Is Darren still arm wrestling?
Yeah, he comes to practice every week, and but he's got an inch that he keeps in his tire shop. He picked up an inch, and he just keeps it there, and all the guys and whoever, the truck drivers and whatever, they all just give it a run to pick it up, and he loves it. And so he got one off Jedd, and he keeps it there. But I would love if I walked in the store and saw one. That'd be cool.
So I remember Darren for two things: for having like this perfect flat top Jim Bryan kind of haircut, and for having like really good cupping strength. So is Darren able to lift up the inch thumbless?
No.
Or is it
no? He's never got it off the ground, I don't think. And I think with the cup, when you do it thumbless, in my opinion of lifting the inch, I think thumbless, the way I see people do it, I think they can cheat it a lot more and they get it more inside their wrist. So much, it's like as if you pick something up in your hand on your bicep, or it was closer to the joint, you're going to be way stronger. And I think people lift it, for the most part, they lift it, and it's almost in that, where your palm meets your wrist, right? So they put it in so deep that it almost doesn't roll it. So thumbless lifting, I'm not, unless somebody truly does it, through their hand, I'm not too jazzed on.
Okay.
I hear what you're saying.
I'm not
there,
an authority on that. Yeah. Go ahead, Jedd.
Yeah. Well, I hear what you're saying on that, Rob, because I've seen people do that too, and it's almost like you're flexing your thumb pad, creating a hard foundation for it, a stable.
Right.
It's like rock hard there, and then some people have the ability to flex their wrist a little bit further, and then the inch just kind of sits there. Plus the fact that most people that are doing that have a fairly large hand, so they're able to trap their hand into both bells. So yeah, that method of going thumbless is certainly a far different lift than lifting it with your palm touching the actual palm touching the handle.
Because let's be honest, the inch dumbbell lift is a feat of grip strength. It's not a feat of getting it off the ground. If it was just getting it off the ground, it would be anything. But you're supposed to grab it and pick it up. But now people find ways of manipulating how to lift it. I think just classically grabbing it with your hand with your fingers wrapped around it and your thumb. That's the lift. That's my take on it, at least.
Agreed.
Yeah.
In fact, now for me, lifting it legitimately thumbless, like with the thumb under, but then still like with the fingers in pretty much the same exact spot they would be lifting it with the thumb on top, that feels so freaking hard. And I've only actually ever done it once in my lifetime. I just did it. It was like maybe January or something like that. I did it. I think Storm Chelino was at the gym, and I was able to do it.
Yep.
It was like this winter. So and that's something I trained. I mean, I first started training that in like February of 2005. Sorry, I was going to say 2015. 2005 with David Horn. David Horn and I had like a little just a personal challenge going on, gentleman's challenge to try to do it. And I was going to try to do two-a-day workouts and do the thumbless stuff in the morning and then come back and do like whatever I was training for or whatever contest in the afternoon. And like one of the mornings when I went down there, I tweaked something in my wrist and I just never got back into it for a long time. So it's a very, very, very hard feat.
The way you're describing thumbless, that's a good lift. As long as it's through the hand. If you're taking it and putting it, like you said, and just getting it off the ground by, wrist curling and putting it in that pocket, that's a totally different species.
Yeah.
But thumbless through your hand is a great lift. Yeah, that's really elite.
Yeah. I mean I rely on my thumb so much for thick bar, it's not even funny. So to place that underneath, I mean my wrist and my finger, all that strength is just way weaker than my pinching. So
that's interesting.
Much tougher. Yeah, much tougher under there that way.
Yeah.
Alan, did you? We haven't heard much from you today. Did you have any questions you wanted to run by Rob regarding, any of his grip or arm wrestling history?
I did, yeah. You had briefly mentioned, the inch dumbbell came up and you talked about having a 45-pound plate. What other grip feats are you known for? I've mostly heard of you, just from the arm wrestling point of view.
I mean, at some point in time, it's too bad because all the list of feats that are supposed to be really cool and really elite, I did at some point in time. I mean, I feel like I was good at the bending, and I did the classic bending. Like I saw a video recently where once everybody got into the pec crush, it really changed the bending game. But I always bent overhand, so like I would grab it overhand and then reverse my other hand and bend it forward. And they said that there was some guy that had a video on. They made a big deal about bending overhand red because of the style he bent it. But I was doing that, with 5.5 inches of a red overhand, even 15 years ago. And the hub with the plate loading pin. I think I heard recently, what was the record on that now? Like 76 pounds?
Well, it's over 100 now.
Yeah, it's almost 100.
100? Yeah, because I was creeping in that zone I was close to there. One-handed pinch, I was way up there. I was, without when I was doing this stuff, that we didn't have the adjustable pinch load things. It was basically like just load up 45s with a bar going through it. But I did all the things like the 610s, the blob by the face, blob with the extra weight on it, whatever. Basically, any feat that I saw out there, I made it a personal challenge to myself to meet or beat it. If I saw somebody else creeping out there, like videos of Wade Gillingham with the 325s or passing the 45s around his back, I made it a point to do that. I wanted to feel like I prided myself on strong hands, and at that point in my life, I really wanted the strongest hands in the world. So if I saw somebody do something, I made it a point to try to do it. And I feel at that time frame, I did every feat that I saw.
Yeah, and you were creeping up the Mash Monster ladder too, right? Before they came out with the bigger Mash Monster grippers.
Yeah, I have a conspiracy theory about the Mash Monster, though.
Go for it.
Let's hear this.
I think, so the Mash Monster came out because you had guys who were who were crush kings, guys like Heath Sexton. I don't know if Richard Soren was doing that stuff, but Heath Sexton, Tommy Heslop, Clay Edgin, these guys were all like, who was the other four closers? Dave Morton, guys who were all like four closers, guys who were, but they wanted to know who was the best. But if you're going by grippers, well, we all have different grippers. Mm-hmm. So they came up with the idea of like, well, we'll make one gripper, have it certified, we'll send it out to somebody. They got to get a clean video of them opening it out of the package, close it, put it back in the package, all that stuff. And they mailed the same gripper around to people, and as you climbed. Well, by the time it got to level 2, all your certified four closers, Tommy Heslop, Dave Morton, Clay Edgin, the three of them failed two separate times, getting it to them 2 separate times. So it came around to me, and I closed it. And then it was a long time went that nobody closed that too. So I figured we figured out who had the strongest crush grip, right? We're going to just wait for 10, 20 years. But then all of a sudden, once they close that 2, now they're closing a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, a 7, an 8. And if it was really going incrementally, and the grippers were stepping incrementally, how do you go from a gripper that you're already maxed out closing, say, a number 4, and you can't close it? It's at your very max, and then you take a level over that, and another level over that. I'm starting to think that the 5 is easier than the 2. Well, because there would be guys out there, if you're talking certified 4 closers were failing on the 2, and if that was the case, the guys are closing number 8 and they're incremental, they'd be out there, people would be repping the number 4. No problem. So that's my little conspiracy theory on it.
I think so. Let me throw some stuff out there. I remember people missing on the 3, the Mash Monster 3. In fact,
okay, that's what it was. It was number 3. Yeah. I'm sorry, I keep saying the 2.
Right. I missed on it 3 times myself. As I recall, the Mash Monster 2 is only like slightly harder than the Mash Monster 1. Like they felt like the same gripper when I certified on them. So I think it was
that's the consensus.
But
right. So maybe this number 3 is where I stopped. I didn't get another gripper after 3 because I don't think they made a new one. I was already like on the back end of like the grip world because I started getting into arm wrestling. Yeah. And they didn't make a new gripper because people hadn't closed it besides me. So it was a while.
Yeah. I think they weren't going to make a new gripper until like maybe 5 people certified on the previous one or something like that. It's like something like that seems to register in my memory.
Okay.
So it took me like 10 tries to do the number 3. The Mash Monster 3, and then I missed as I recall, I missed the 4, and then like 2 weeks later I tried it again and I got it, and then I missed the 5. So for me, it was a definite huge jump from MM2 to MM3, and then the jump wasn't too bad from MM3 to MM4.
But I got to think about it realistically. You're a guy who's been training grip. You've been doing grip a long time. You're talking a gripper that you missed on 10 times. That's like all of a sudden, that's like of me telling you like, oh, I've been training for 10 years to bench press 300, and then just a week later I walked into the gym and bench press 400. If they're incrementally, I can't be made to believe that they're any different. I mean, you're talking, what's it up to now? Mash Monster 6 or 8?
Well, someone just closed a 7 the other day. Did someone close an 8 before? I can't remember, Alan.
Morgan Choi shut the 8.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see what these people are pulling on a dyno. Like, if these people are if it really was that high, I'd like to see what their dyno numbers are. You know what I mean? Because I don't really. That's my own little theory. Because it makes sense to me. Like when I saw 4 closers failing on a 3, but now you got guys that are doing 5 steps over that, 4 steps over that. It's just.
Do you guys know if Qinshin Yang has gotten on any of the Mash Monster grippers? The guy from China?
No, I don't think he has.
Oh, because I know he's like repping on 4s now. He's just like, he's just playing with the damn thing, keeping it closed, just sitting there closing it like I don't know how many times, like it's a toy to him now. So that's why I was wondering if he got on the Mash Monster ladder.
No, you should sure take a look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Rob, you know what I was always curious about?
What?
You know, when we were talking about this, I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, because there's a guy out right now, his name's Carl Myerscough, who's out in California, and he's a huge guy, pulls gigantic numbers, has huge hands, and I was sitting there thinking to myself, I wonder if that kind of guy would motivate a Rob Vigeant to come back and want to like slay a giant like that, who's just sort of setting the world on fire.
You know, I hit a stint. It absolutely would, and the problem is, there's a part of me that really just is in love with arm wrestling as well. And when WAL had a little bit of a hiccup and arm wrestling took like a big step back, you know, back to like just local events and stuff. And I was a little bit perturbed about some of the way things were going. So in my mind, I was like, I want to close a 4. I want to cert on a 4 the real way, like cert on it. And I want to do all this stuff again. And I was going to get back into it. And I started training it, doing all that classical stuff that I used to do. And then, you know, when WL came back and, you know, big tournaments and, you know, there's some money involved, which it isn't the decider for me, but it's very hard to be master of both those worlds. Even though the hand strength helps at arm wrestling, it is a different application of the strength. And, you know, you put too many coals in the fire, it's tough. But I don't think it's something that I've walked away from. I just think that priority-wise right now, I got a lot more I want to do within the arm wrestling. You know what I mean?
Sure, and you can always come back to it. You know, I mean, I'll tell you, Luke Raymond kind of surprises me how well he can train grip and continue to compete at it, and also be climbing as well as he has in arm wrestling, because he looked really good this last week at the sit-down.
Yeah, I heard that from Badger. He said that Luke looks great, and, you know, I just it was great that Badger went down there because I just bought a bunch of equipment. I got on his website, and I was like, oh, okay, I want that. And, you know, the grip world's like the arm wrestling world. It's a bunch of cool dudes. You probably get a lot less, you know, egomaniacs and the steroids and all that stuff. So in some ways, it's probably even cooler. And I miss a lot of it. But the arm wrestling's like in me as well. It's like I got both of them in me. It's just for me right now, it's more what I'm entrenched in. But I would definitely, I'm not opposed to coming back or taking a stab or in the off season. You know, I could still jump into a grip tournament and do well. I could still do, you know, heavy pinch, and I think my thick bar has gone up. So other things like my grippers aren't as strong as they used to be.
You know, the other question I was curious about, is there anyone in arm wrestling who, when you grip up with their hand, you get nervous? Like, or has that ever happened? Can you think of a time where you gripped up with someone you were like, man?
Ironically, it's everybody. Everyone I grab, I feel like they've got this crazy hand. They feel like iron. But truthfully, as far as like intimidation through the hand, no. Because I just try to focus on where I want my hand placement and what I'm going to do. I like grabbing somebody with a bigger hand because everyone thinks, oh, big hand, big hand, big hand. It's big hand isn't anything if you don't have the adequate strength to apply to someone. Sure. I actually think a big hand could be a liability if it doesn't have the proper containing strength, because now you got a longer finger for someone to leverage on. If you got a hand that's not adequately strong and you can leverage on that longer finger, it's just like an arm or a lever. The longer one is gonna, if you put 50 pounds of pressure on a 4-inch finger as opposed to a 3-inch finger, the longer finger is gonna feel the load more. You know what I mean? So
the only thing I would say is the learning curve is quicker for somebody with the bigger hand, though. Like if they do develop the strength, it's almost like they can make a few more mistakes and even be a little bit slower and recover.
Right. I mean, there's definitely an advantage, but I when I grab somebody with a big hand, I think they're inclined to try to use it, and with as strong as my ability to rotate and pull back towards me, I love the idea of somebody actually committing to try to hold on to me. So it's for them, it's almost like I've never had a problem with somebody that's committed to holding on to me. It's always the tricky people that will go to straps or do something sneaky or really fast. Somebody who's committed to me, So, I mean, no, I don't really pull with many guys that their hand impresses me, ironically, in a sport like arm wrestling where hand strength is key. I think the day and age of people really using their hand strength is kind of forgotten. It's like old school now. People are so
I know, it's
dependent
kind of
on
a bummer,
reps.
though.
Yeah,
it's
really
kind
is.
of a bummer, you know?
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that actually brought this topic up was, you know, we were talking about big, strong hands, and I kept looking up for, you know, information about Cleve Dean's hand. Because did you ever get a chance to pull with Cleve at all, even on like a practice table?
No, I never got to even meet him.
Man, I pulled him in 2008 at a tournament in Georgia. And, I mean, only 2 times have I ever gripped up with somebody and felt like there's nothing I can do. And one was with Sean Latimer, left-handed, and the other was with Cleve Dean, right-handed. And I actually stopped Cleve in a hook and had a good position on him, but I just basically closed my eyes and turned because I was like, there's nothing I can do with this guy's hand, you know?
Right.
And it was an older version of Cleve Dean. It was nothing near what Cleve Dean was. But his hand was so thick and just, I mean, I don't know, like, you know, I'm looking at numbers where they said his hand was less than 10 inches from palm to the tip of his middle finger, and I can't believe that. Because, I mean, I've gripped up with, like, the biggest-handed guys that I can think of in the sport, and I would imagine you and I are going to have a lot of crossover with the names, but Cleve's hand was just something different.
Right.
You know? And I was wondering if you could verify
a guy like that. I would imagine that I would just, you know, like I did pull with Sean Latimer left-handed. So there is a different thing with the thickness and people using it into your hand. You know, of course, both those guys are, you know, they put the thumb pad into your hand and roll with you. So it definitely does. You're talking a guy like that with, what was Cleve, 500, 600 pounds? A guy like Sean's over 4. So you're talking very, very large men. And, you know, of course, those hands are a little more uncomfortable than grabbing somebody like Craig Toulier, of course. But with my hand being big enough and I'm comfortable with it in an open position, and I think I try to train that way, I don't really get too uncomfortable in the grip up with people. But then again, I've never pulled Cleve Dean.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's the interesting thing is it's like, well, you had mentioned a name to me yesterday when we were texting. Who was the name of that guy?
Jedd would know who he is. He was in the grip world for a little bit. Very big, another big man that had to be about 400 pounds. Tony Scribbins.
Hell yeah, man! That was the guy I was going to talk about. Tony Scribbins. Met him. You were out there too, Rob. We were all out to Minnesota for the Strong Arm Classics or Strong Arm Tactics competition. It was January of 2004.
Yep.
All right. Well, 2004.
He was a huge, just a huge person.
And he just passed away here a few weeks ago.
Did he really?
Was that the guy you posted the eulogy of? Is that him?
I'm sorry?
Was that the guy you posted the eulogy of recently?
Yeah, I believe. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He couldn't have been that old.
No, but unfortunately, as you and I both know, you know, these larger people, you know, it has a toll on a person's heart. So I don't know if that had something to do with it or not.
Right.
But, you know, I suppose it certainly could have. But no, I don't know. He might have been 50 or something.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. So I'm 40. So I didn't think he was a lot older than me back when we were out there. But his damn hand was so big that, like, you could barely see the spring. As he was taking his gripper attempts, you could barely see the spring. Like, it was just gone. And
he had fat fingers, which is, you know, there's people who have like a big handprint. Like, my hand's very big, and like if I put my handprint, like press it into a mold, it's big in span. But then there's guys who have, like, you know, really fat fingers, and like they're really thick through the hand. And a guy like Tony, he was one of those guys like you could put like a silver dollar through his ring.
Wow.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a pretty decent-sized hand. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, very big. I remember him. I remember seeing him and saying, yeah, he's got a big hand. He was just a big dude.
Hey, Rob, do you remember the shirts that were made up for Pulling John that had the handprint of Cleve Dean on the back?
Yeah.
Did you ever
I
get
remember
a chance
I never actually saw one up close, though. I never, went and put my hand on the back of it.
Okay. Yeah, it was comical because I know somebody had said it was like an actual X-ray picture of his hand, and then other people said it was an outline. It was made out of an outline and it was expanded, but I don't know. It took up the whole back side of a medium shirt. That's why I was just like, I couldn't imagine somebody having a bigger hand than that. But I guess they're out there.
Yeah, well, it's like Jeff Dabe walks around with a shirt like that for himself now. He's got a shirt that's like says "Dare to Compare," and he's got the handprint of his hand.
Dare to Compare.
Yeah, something like that, right?
Did you ever pull with Jeff, or did you ever match up hands with him? Because Jeff came in after I left the sport, pretty much.
I've never put my hands up to his, and I know it's like a weird. The shape of it's very weird. It's like the fingers look normal, and then one of them's like really long. And no, I've never pulled with him either. I mean, he's a guy I think probably has like a monstrous hand, but I don't know if the strength crosses over for like the intimidation of how big it is. Because certain guys seem to roll him and get away from him pretty easy. Certain guys, I mean, he controls at a good level, but when you get to that higher end, his hand gets manipulated. And but no, I've never pulled with him. Yeah,
it's a very uncomfortable handle, I'm sure, to grip up with, though.
Oh yeah, for sure, and he's got thickness too. I mean, he's an anomaly. He's like Oleg in Russia.
Yeah, Oleg. And did you ever get a chance to match up hands or shake hands with Pushkar before he passed?
No.
That was the most incredible handshake I ever felt on a human being.
It
just felt like it felt like grabbing a cinder block. I've never, I shook his hand and I was like, wait a second, we got to do that again because that just didn't make sense to me. You know what I mean?
Didn't shake, huh?
I mean, you're talking, he's an incredible athlete. I mean, he was, and he put the grind in for, a couple decades, and being genetically gifted and just a big dude and that part of the world, I mean, to be the best in the world at that time, I mean, it doesn't surprise me.
Sure. And, the other thing I was curious about, because two of the guys, and I think, because I've pulled with you and I've pulled with Luke Eldridge. And I remember I was talking to somebody and they said, well, Luke Eldridge's hand was like the biggest in the Northeast. And I was sitting there thinking, well, Luke Eldridge was like, whatever he was, 6'5", 400 pounds or something. But your hand actually felt to me to be a little bit bigger and maybe a little bit stronger too. I would say certainly a little bit stronger. Did you ever match up hands with him? Or?
I did, and it was one of those guys, because he was known for his hand and all he talked about was how big his hand was. And when we put our hands up to each other, I mean, like you said, he's inches taller than me and about 200 pounds heavier. He was having a hard time with the idea that my hand was probably a little bit bigger than his. So he did the old thing of trying to scooch his hand up when we were trying to match. I'm like, Luke, get your fucking hand straight. So, I mean, I imagine for a guy who prided himself on big hands, it's a hard pill to swallow that, in that world, I mean, we're in a sport that I guess 6'2", 200 pounds is a small guy nowadays. I don't know. And, it was hard for him to swallow.
Well, didn't he? He had the profile picture where he put the hand forward, right? And wasn't it a picture of him with his face behind his hand or something? It was like a artistic.
Yeah, he was very hand proud. He was very hand proud. He likes to intimidate hand people, proud. And he was hand proud. He had hand pride.
Oh man. So can
Rob,
you
what are the measurements of your hands?
I think if I'm measuring right and honest, I'm in probably about 9 1/4, not going too far down my wrist, not trying to cheat the tape around the tip. About 9 1/4. I think my palm is wider than, I feel like a lot of when I grip up with people or other people's hands, I notice my palm or fist is wider than the majority. It's probably, I don't know how you measure the palm, but I remember at one point in time they said if you're over 4 inches, that's good. But I don't know. I'm probably closer to 5 wide on my palm across the top of my knuckles. So handprint wise, I haven't met anybody with a hand that I put my hand up to that's been bigger than mine span-wise. Somebody like Sean Latimer's fatter, but like span, I haven't really met anybody yet that's been bigger. I mean, I know they creep around out there, but that's just.
And you know what's funny? What's funny too is that Rob is probably absolutely telling 100% the truth about his hands, because Rob will break out a tape measure on people.
Oh, fucking right, I will. Yeah.
You tell Rob you have a 19-inch arm. That motherfucker's going to bring out a tape measure.
Oh yeah. When I broke out the tape on people, and I did it at an arm wrestling tournament, because I learned one thing. Even with the grip board, even with any internet thing where you put up a feat, like how many pull-ups can you do? If you're the first to pull to post, you are the weakest guy on that link. You are. If everybody. I saw a pull-up post. By the time the post was over, there was a 300-pound girl that was doing 30 reps with fucking 100 pounds on her waist. So, and the same thing is with like forearm measurements. By the time it was done, it was everybody had a 16-inch forearm, and everybody could curl a 100-pound dumbbell. Everybody. So I was like, fuck you guys. So I went to a tournament, and I pulled out a tape measure. You should have seen the guys who were the bodybuilder types, like Chris Chandler. That guy was like, you'd have thought a terrorist walked in the building, because he exited stage door right. He was like, get me out of here. Yeah. I was like, and we were at a tournament. It was after a tournament. Like, you guys are getting the grace of a pump right now, so I want to throw a tape on you guys. And I'm going to tell you what, all these 16-inch forearms, there wasn't one 16-inch forearm in the whole building. Actually, I think Don Underwood had one, but I mean, he's
I was just saying,
300
hey,
pounds.
Rob, what if I told you I'm over 16-inch, my right forearm?
I want to see it.
Well,
it depends on, and the thing is too, people can't. The thing is too is people can't seem to measure right. Like, they get real weird with measuring it. They get, like, I tried to get Alan Fisher to measure his forearm because he's known for his forearm. But it's like bodybuilding. It's because of the way his skeleton is in comparison to the rest of his body. And his forearm was probably, 13. And he was like, he was flexing. He was putting his arm in the air. He wanted me to go around his bicep. I was like, Alan, just stick your fucking forearm out straight, man. So, yeah, if people talk shit and I'm in the area, I will call you on. I've almost brought a dumbbell to tournaments with me just to see if people could pick it up. Because from what I get on the internet, I'm the weakest guy that ever walked Earth.
I don't feel so bad about my forearm size now that you were talking about Alan Fisher's like that, I guess.
Yeah, but
in reality, okay, so what was it? Juji Mufu just did a video with Devin Larrett, like he did that video series. Yeah. And Juji's a pretty big guy. What is he? He's like a bodybuilder. He's got a very respectable forearm when I see him, like in videos. He's very forearm heavy. A guy like Devin, when you see Devin, he's 6'5", like 250, 245, big by anyone's standards, and he's very forearm dense. Like when you see Devin Larrett, I see big forearms. And they did a video of like,
big.
Yeah, so he goes and when he flexes his forearm out front, a little bit of bend in it. When he flexed it, he's 15 inches. And him and Juji were almost the same. So to me, if you're over 14 or 14 inches even, that's a big forearm. I remember they talked about Bill Pearl had 14 and a half inches. And they said that was a monstrous forearm. So all this bullshit about these guys out there, it's because you're getting fake information, And that's why I hate people who post those fake Russian propaganda videos of guys doing wrist curls with 300-pound dumbbells and shit. I hate it because new guys get in and go, if that's what I got to do to be at the top, I'm not even close.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Rob. When I get off this call, I'm going to post a picture of my forearm measured, but I'm going to kink it about an inch so it looks like it's about 17.
Yeah, 18.
And I'm going to make a big loop around my elbow, too.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not going to go straight around the forearm.
Yeah. I'm going to go and just draw up my own tape measure, right? And so they're only 3/4 of an inch instead of an inch, and I'll be king.
Do it the way Lee Priest shows it, the cheater way, where you kind of double up the tape in one spot, go around it.
Oh, man.
No measurements are real. Like, I always say that there's a few things that all guys lie about. It's like how much money they make, what they bench press, how big their pecker is, And any kind of measurement like that, almost every dude lies about. It's just a fact. I try not to because I don't want to meet some prick like me that will put me on the spot.
Well, we appreciate your honesty, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be willing to
measuring one of those things could get a little awkward, but yeah, the
listen, I put people on the spot for that too. I used to have a buddy that walked around talking about he couldn't get no play from any girls, but he used to walk around talking about how big his wang was, and I was like, dude, pull it out. I want to see. I'm tired of hearing it. Pull it out. But truth be told, it was like the Loch Ness monster. I never saw it.
Never dipped its head out of the water?
No, I never saw it.
On you, Rob?
Yeah. I was almost creeper status. I was trying to go to the piss at the same time he was, just so I could peer over. But I wanted to see if the legend was true, but it was his own legend. So that's the same thing with I think that's the beauty of like things like the grip world and arm wrestling is if you're going to be competitive, you've got to put it on the line. There's really no more talk of. There's really no more bullshit. Yeah. Like you can't sit. Like you talk about, there's people out there that. Who was the first guy to close the floor? What was that guy's name?
Joe Kinney.
Joe Kinney.
Yeah, him. But that guy disappeared too. He's like, isn't he like the Yeti? I think that like some of these people will do things to get the notoriety of doing something like a lift, kind of like this whole fake weights movement that's going on now. They got all these Instagram hits and followers. There's people doing things that are 10 times world class because it gives you, we're in a day and age where you can get a lot of notoriety from it. But when you go to an actual tournament or an event, like there's really nowhere to hide that bullshit. So,
well, there's a big difference in how people get famous now. I mean, it used to be like, you know, the way people got famous was by doing something good. And now it's like you just have to be good at being famous. You know what I mean?
Right. You got to be good at like trying to find what people want to see and like and play the fake game.
Yeah, it's exhausting. And I agree with you. Like with grip and arm wrestling, it's about what you can do. It doesn't matter how big your arm is or your hand, or it's what you can do.
Yep. Yeah, and it's humility is sometimes too much for most people to bear. A lot of these guys that get to walk around and they already get the title because they put on their tight shirt and everyone thinks they're strong. So if everyone already assumes they're great, why are they going to go into a scenario that is going to actually make a result? And the only result could be less favorable because they're already crowned the king, right? They're already like, oh, well, you must be big, you must be strong. You know, they don't want to put something on the line and get smashed up by some 160-pound kid or, you know, any sport like that, even the grip world. You know, you get these guys that they look like they got big muscles and everything, and they go to grab something, they can't even move a trainer. And it's like, what? It's like you kill yourself. You know, how do you even call yourself a man? You got to give your jar of pickles over to your wife to open it? Get the fuck out of here.
I got Rob real fired up with that tape measure thing. I knew that was going to happen. I knew.
Yeah, well, believe me, I want to rekindle the days of doing it because we got a whole new crop of superheroes. And with Facebook and Instagram now, you know, I apparently I'm not part of the take a selfie of myself in the public restroom or the gym with my clothes off or whatever. So I'm not as cool as some of these people, but I still like to put them in check when I can.
Well, I think, you know, going back to what you said before, I think, you know, the reality of it is that person who, you know, post the Instagram selfie and they do the Brad Castleberry fake weight thing, you know, they're delusional. So they're really not reaping any benefits from it. Like, you know, one thing I've learned from, you know, doing my job as a therapist is that, you know, the more you resist the actual truth and reality of yourself and your life, the more you suffer because the more you delude yourself.
Right. And so, my problem is it's almost like I'm trying to fight the good fight. Like I'll get mad about things because they put information out there that frustrates the new guy. Because if they think certain things are so unattainable and unrealistic, you know, I got a guy that I train with. You know who John Cervantes is?
Yeah, from Maine, right?
Yeah, so he's a thick kid. You know, he's about 220, big by anyone's standards. And he was like, oh, you know, my arms are barely 18. Like he was talking about himself like he was some nerd. And I'm like, John, I'm like, in the world of like, outside of like competitive bodybuilders that got, you know, 6 figures worth of juice running through their system, you know, an 18-inch arm is monstrous. I'm like,
and who cares?
Nowadays online, if you got an 18-inch arm, or if you're like, say me, like 6'2", 200 pounds, I'm an ant in the internet world. Everyone's big, everyone's huge, everyone's got fake numbers, and they do fake weights. So if you're trying to compare yourself to what's out there with how much you can lift or how big you are, I mean, you're going to feel like you can never make up that ground. And that's why
if you're looking around. If you're looking around, you will. But if you're just looking at yourself and you're keeping track of your own progress and you're setting short-term goals, then who cares?
Yeah. I mean, I get it. But even if you were like wanted to be competitive in the world of grip, if everyone out there is throwing around fake numbers, you could easily dupe yourself to be in the mindset of like, oh, I'll never be able to do that. You know, if it was all fake numbers, you don't know how to gauge if you're good or below average.
Yeah.
I just like reality, man. I try to live in reality as much as I can.
Well, yeah, and I think what you're saying too is like what I notice just working with people is a lot of them, they derail themselves before they get started. It's like, and it's because they look around and they start doing the whole comparison thing. Yeah. And rather than thinking about what they want to do and why they want to do it, they start thinking about, well, how, and then they have these limiting beliefs because they're looking at other people doing stuff that they can't even fathom doing. And, you know, and I think the people who are strong, you know, do owe it to kind of the newcomers to say, hey, look, don't compare yourself to me or anyone else. I'll help you get, you know, going and get moving. Just stay motivated and think of it like pushing a car. Like your car breaks down, you start pushing your car. You're like, how the hell am I going to get to the gas station? And then once it's rolling, you're doing fine. You know what I mean? Right. But you can't derail yourself before it gets rolling, I guess.
Right. That's what it is. Exactly. And if people are just honest with themselves on that note, you know, and they stay motivated, yeah, you can accomplish an awful lot. People see go from zero to hero, you know, in a short amount of time with the right motivation.
Yeah. So, Rob, in terms of the guys in arm wrestling or in grip, like if you were to come up with a list of the guys who you think had the biggest hands, whether you gripped up with them or not, or you were at events with them, grip-wise, you know, who would those guys be?
All right. In grip, it's hard to say, as the guys who were really on top when I was doing it, you know, we'll say like Jedd was in it, Tommy Heslop, he wasn't a particularly big-handed guy. So aside from Tony Scribbins, I can't really dial in on someone. In arm wrestling, we'll say Sean was big, Luke Eldridge. But, you know, when you're talking guys that are that big, it looks like it fits. So if we're talking people who have, like, a really big hand for their size, well, then a guy like Bill Sinks is there.
Yeah. I had him on my list, too.
Yeah, Bill Sinks. Cobra has a long hand.
Also on my list, I had him at 165 with Alan Fisher as two of the biggest handed guys.
Alan's known for a big hand. I mean, Ron Bass.
Yeah.
You know, I think even John. I think even Brezink has what would be considered a big hand. I mean, he's not like a freaky weirdo, but he's got a big hand, and it's strong.
His thumb is a little bit strange.
What's that?
His thumb is a little bit strange.
Yeah.
There's something. Yeah. There's something like bigger and stronger about his thumb that doesn't seem to fit on his hand. I don't know if you've ever noticed that.
Yeah. Ironically, I think I've got a disproportionately small thumb for my hand.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, I wouldn't notice. I just look at your hand and you know, you look like E.T. walking up with the moonlight behind you. Big long hand. Yeah. But, you know, it's funny. I don't know if you remember some of these names. There was a guy at 143 pounds named Rick Salawatu. Do you remember that name?
Yep.
He had he had like a hand of a guy who pulled like 98 220s.
Yep.
You know, like his hand would have matched up with that. And then
he was damn good too.
Yeah, he was very good. Yeah. I mean, he was one of the few guys in the U.S. that would consistently place in the Open Class at Worlds too.
You know who had a damn big hand that surprised me? I didn't believe that his hand was that big. Was
who's that?
Frank Bean.
Who?
Frank Bean.
Oh yeah,
you know,
yeah. Karen's husband Frank. Yeah, I've gripped up with Frank before. He does have a big hand.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I don't know if he's pulling anymore, but he used to pull in the Northeast all the time. A guy named Mike Surplus.
Yeah,
he was another guy from Pennsylvania.
I haven't seen him in a long time. He was a small kid, right?
Yeah. He was short, but he had like these giant hands, you know. And he always showed up to the table. He looked like he was all tweaked out on something.
Oh yeah, he was spazzed out. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like George Stanton had a big hand.
Yeah. I actually had him on my list at about the 176-87 class. I had him and Sink, Mike Solaris.
Yep.
Yeah, Johnny Walker.
I think it's more noticeable with a lighter guy, because like I said, you can see the proportional like difference. Somebody like Norm Devio, who was very hand dominant.
Yeah, Norm's, because you got to realize I started out at 54, so I pulled the guys at like the Rick Salawatas and the Norm Devios, the Mike Surpluses, and
You pull with Denny? Hey, did you pull Denny DeBray?
Never in an event, no. I pulled him one time on a side table at the Can-Ams, and he was 165 at the time, and I couldn't do anything with his hand. I was lighter, but I couldn't do anything with his hand. Yeah,
he was one of the guys who told me you emceed my match with him when I was brand new, and he was one of the guys who told me, he's like, you don't even know how to use your hand yet. He goes, you don't use your hand right at all. And he kind of like put in motion, like for me rethinking things on kind of what I was doing.
He was a really good puller, man. He won the Harley that year. He won the overall at the Can-Ams at 165. I think when you guys pulled that super match, he might have been 165, 170, right?
Yeah, I think he was a little bit heavier, but he definitely would have made the 176 class. So yeah, he was big, like he looked like a nerd, and then he took off his jacket, and you could see all like the back muscles and stuff. So
I know.
He had a jacked forearm, a thick palm, and you could tell you were into something a little bit more than what was face value.
Absolutely, yeah. Hey, at 220, did you ever pull guys like Mamuka Pajashvili or Mike Bowling?
I pulled Mike Bowling. I pulled Mike. I don't know who Mamuka is.
Oh, he was a guy who was living in New York for a while. Yeah. He was a guy who was living in New York for a while. He might have been. I pulled him at the Big Apple Grapple. I want to say it was like 2005.
I remember seeing him on those in New York. I remember seeing some of those videos where he only did New York stuff, though, I think.
Yeah, because he was only over here for a little bit. Yeah. But I know he was a WAF world champion, and he had a big, strong hand on him. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, some of these guys have big, strong hands. Very few of them really use it right.
Yeah.
Like Bill Sinks will grip up with you for 20 minutes to get a grip, and then he just pulls away to go to the straps. I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah.
There's no control.
Yeah, he doesn't try to seal you up and cup and like really, try to control your pronation with that hand before he starts the top roll. Yeah.
Right. And that's very few people. I mean, I could probably count on one hand the guys that I watch and see that they actually control with hand strength, as opposed to, most top rollers now are hoping that the other guy holds on to them and pins themselves. They just rotate away and hope that you hold on to them and get yourself in trouble. They're not really.
I resemble that remark.
There's not many of them. I could probably count on one hand the guys that really pull with control.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you grip up with somebody like, I mean, gosh, I don't know why, because people used to say I don't understand it with you, with me and Mark Taggart. Like there were guys who I could roll through that would be able to beat Mark, and then I'd grip up with Mark, and he'd just shut my pronation down, and I'd end up having to get into some weird, funky position with him, and you know, we'd either slip or, you know, I'd just try to hook him, and I'd hook him out of position, and then it'd be a grind, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's the thing that I love about the sport is the infinite variables of direction, pressure, people's makes, models. There really is an infinite level of variables and pressures and differences. You know, there's no real two people that are the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like it for the same reason, actually. You know,
but it's hard for me. I'm in a big struggle because of probably the same thing that pushed you out of the sport. You know, that's been especially as I'm getting older, the direction the sport's going it's really sad.
Yeah.
I love it,
well,
and I'm going to say
you know, it's funny because people have theories about what pushed me out of the sport, you know, but I don't know. It's funny because people still talk about it, evidently. But no, I mean, listen, drugs really wasn't like a big aspect of what pushed me out of the sport. I mean, it was already there.
Right.
You know? So, but it's certainly, you know, it's certainly something I fought against for a long time.
Yeah,
you know?
And it's a tough, it's really
it was a losing battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
But, I mean, that wasn't just it. I mean, I hosted a practice every week from what I wanted to be like 1 until 4, and it turned up being, you know, it ended up being 1 to 7 p.m. with guys showing up 3 hours late. And, you know, I'd respectfully ask guys to come on time, and, you know what I mean? And then it was, you know, we'd go to an event, and it would be like 6 hours away. Because, you know, in the South, there's just not a lot of events close to you. So it would be like a road trip kind of thing. And I had so many guys back out on me in the last minute. Then I'd get to an event, and it was, there's a problem with the bracket. Hey, James, can you help? Or, James, you know, we need another ref, you know. Or, hey, James, can you pull and announce? And it just, it got to be like at the point where tournaments felt like an obligation rather than a fun road trip with the guys where we're all busting balls. And, you know, and that's when I was just like, yeah. It just ran its course.
Right.
So, you know.
I hear you.
But, yeah, I'm sure there are aspects that, you know, you don't like, and I'm sure a lot of them are related to the drugs. And I certainly am a big supporter of yours, specifically because you've remained drug-free all these years. So.
Yeah.
So I think that's great.
It's tough, but nobody, it's like pissing your pants in a dark suit, right? It gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling, but nobody notices.
Yeah.
And most people don't want to hear that you're, they don't even want to acknowledge a drug-free athlete either, because they can't handle the fact that if they are all jacked up and in the gym 6 days a week, and then they fall short to the guy who, you know, barely gets to the gym and doesn't do anything. They can't handle that. So nobody really wants to talk about that side of it anyways, you know, but
it's an issue with their own self-worth.
Yeah.
You know, It's an ego-related thing. And, yeah, I mean, look, I think one of the things that we learn about everything else in life is that, you know, the key to success in it is, you know, hard work and delayed gratification. And it's like, if you see guys come into a sport and then, you know, they're not even that good, really, but within 2 to 3 years, you know, they're tangling with like top 10 guys in their weight class, and they've grown. They put 40 pounds of muscle on. You know what I mean? Yeah, it just gets a little bit, you know, it does get frustrating. It runs its course.
It's frustrating. Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, but it did get to a point too where it's acceptable now. You know, it's been completely destigmatized now, so people just say, oh yeah, well, you know, they did a cycle of this, or they added something. My favorite is, oh, this person's not just doing TRT, they added something to it. You know, like there's another ingredient. So it's like the TRT is already accepted. I mean, that's to be expected. We also added something. You know, we sprinkled a little bit of, tren in there. You know?
Yeah, of course.
So
that's human nature.
Anyway,
when if they can get by, if they can cheat, they do. And it's not seen as cheating, but the people will give an inch, they take a mile. I mean, That's the way it is.
Well, a lot of people will. You got to hold out faith that there's more of us out there, Rob.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. I'm sure. But at the end of the day, right, I say, I laugh to myself because, I picture a guy like Todd Hutchings and his kid getting older and being like, well, God damn, Dad, like, how come, like, being bummed out, like, because he didn't get some of that, like, genetic strength, like, where's my, why are they strong like you? And it's like, well, because it wasn't a genetic thing, right? There's an awful lot of help there. At least I can look at my kids and be honest with them when they get older. And,
I've been saying that since
I don't have to
born,
tell them that lie that it's all hard work when hard work wasn't enough for me. You know what I mean?
Yep. Because I don't want to sit there and tell them, like, because look, I mean, I work with people who have drug addiction issues and all kinds of stuff, and I don't want to be able to look at my kids and say, look, drugs are the road to nowhere. You can do it on your own. You can be completely self-sustaining. You're not going to need anything else to help you get there. You got it all within you, and then be a hypocrite and use steroids.
Right. Well, it's just like those people now on the fitness models and everything that they're like, oh, well, yeah, follow my, 6-step program to get abs and, just work hard, train hard, and it's all, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, if you just do this and put in the work, it's like the work wasn't enough for you. You didn't follow those guidelines. So
it's
I just don't.
Sure.
I'm big on being able to look at myself in the mirror. I've got enough shortcomings and fuck ups that I don't need to add another one on the list.
Oh man. Well, one thing I would say, Rob, is that if you know what you know who you are and what you are, then at some point you just don't care what other people think about you. So
right. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty much there, but in the competitive world, everyone loves a winner. Everyone loves a winner, and they don't care how you win, how you lose. They just want results, and it's a struggle part of the time. But I'm not on social media at all anymore, so it's not as big as it used to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So just to wrap up, sort of the big hand thing. Alan, you didn't mention any names. You've been quiet. You've just laughed a couple times. We haven't heard much from you.
No, I don't really have any names particular when it comes to large-handed people on this one. Being at minor, average, and small, I just everything seems huge to me. So, but no, I just don't have a lot to offer on that one, unfortunately. So.
Okay. Well, one thing I would say is just to add to the guys who I did pull, who I thought had like really intimidating hands. I never pulled him in a tournament, but Delmar Carter had a really strong big hand when I gripped up with him. Jedd Johnson, do you remember him from Tennessee?
Yep.
Yeah, he had a big hand. Reggie Ward, one of my former training partners. Yeah, Pete Milano, I'd have to mention Pete.
Yep.
Nick Zena is he still pulling, Nick?
Yeah. Yeah, he just competed last year with the WAL.
Yeah.
Yeah. Strong
well,
as
the
ever.
guys I do. Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. That's cool. I always liked Nick. He's a funny dude.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah. The guys I didn't arm wrestle, obviously Dennis Plankhoff's hand was ridiculous. Rich Lupke's. I never pulled with Rich, but his hand felt pretty damn strong when I gripped up with it. Mm-hmm. Ron Howell from Texas. You know him?
Yeah, the older guy, right?
Yeah. He's got a big freaky hand.
Yep.
So
yeah, I forgot about him.
Yeah.
He was cool because he would go into events and slay people at like 70. And yeah, he gives you a lot of hope. I like to see guys like that because it gives you a lot of hope as the years inevitably go by.
Yeah. Well, Rob, we actually mentioned you on a show at the end of last year where we were talking about some of the feats of the year, and I had brought up that you had taken a 50-pound plate. I think it was a standard plate, but it was flush on both sides, and you were doing wrist curls with it. So like just pinching it and wrist curling it. So
yeah, for me that was a good one because I know back when I was in grip, I I know that there was a guy who did like a bicep curl with a 45-pound Olympic, but it was kind of like a swing, and his wrist was cracked. And I've never seen anyone do a wrist curl with something that big. And where my wrist has been feeling really strong, it was an event. It was something that I was never able to do. So doing it for me was really cool, especially knowing how good my hand and wrist was when I was in grip. It was a big checkpoint for me that was kind of like grip related.
Yeah. Well, have you seen any feats? Have you paid attention to any feats of grip strength or otherwise that you've been impressed with recently?
From other people?
Well, sure, yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't gone on any of like the forums or boards. I don't know what's good or what people are doing now. Okay. No, I don't even know what exists. I might be doing stuff that's standard, and I think it's cool. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, I just was wondering. I didn't know if you got on YouTube once in a while or something.
Periodically, like of course when like Juji Mufu would go to like train with certain guys, and he got into the big grip kick for a little bit. And so I would kind of get an idea of what was what just from some of the YouTube videos. I do a lot of YouTube, but nothing that I saw that was, Vitaly Lillette and doing some bending and stuff like that. But it's all like kind of related of, you know how YouTube is. You can search out arm wrestling, and then the next thing you're watching like, a horse kick someone, and then it's like drunk people dancing and. You know what I mean? You go
down the wormhole, man. My son was back there watching.
He was on yourself with some weird stuff.
Yeah, my youngest was back there. He's like on his iPad. He's like watching like some kind of cartoons. Next thing I know, like I'm hearing like somebody speaking like Sputnik back there. I'm like, what is going on? He somehow found his way onto like this thing where they're describing like construction equipment in Russian. And dude was mesmerized, man. He was like, he was all
yeah, it's a crazy place.
Yes. Oh man. So I don't know, Jedd, Alan, you guys you have any questions for Rob before we kind of talk some feats or no?
Well, I did. So you're not working on any sort of grip at all presently? It's just strictly arm wrestling?
It's all like flat hand and containment. So my hand strength from like my fingertips, if I grab something flat, is like off the charts right now. So awesome. If I grab a hold of somebody and they try to like break through my hand or get away, my hand doesn't feel like it moves. I haven't grabbed anybody that I feel like has been able to even move it. And that's kind of like the way I pull now. And so that hand strength with like thick handle, fingertip, like wrist curling, crushing that way. And I'll do grippers, like really light ones though, like a HG 150 or something, and just kind of keep my wrist straight and just kind of like with your wrist straight, I just kind of like just crush it with my fingers for reps like that.
Yeah.
And that's the majority of it is like arm wrestling and life focused. Like my job, I work with my hands all the time. But for hand work, I do a lot that's arm wrestling. So it's none of the real like classic lifts that we would do in a grip tournament. But my hand is very strong, just in different directions, just in different ways.
Yeah. I always told people that the only thing I used grippers for when I arm wrestled was I just liked the fact that it thickened my hand.
I do think
I
have
my
a place.
hand to be uncomfortable. Yeah.
Right. I think that I feel good when I can put the hand on my palm and not like squeeze it with my wrist back, like almost just like from my fingers, just like curl my fingers in. It makes I don't know if it's hand health or, my fingers are just stronger and my whole hand is connected or forearm, but it makes me feel good when I get a hold of someone.
And plus, it's not just statics. I mean, that's the thing. Like, if we just do something that's like an isometric or a negative, we're not actually doing any kind of contraction or expansion or, you know what I mean? So
right.
It's like,
right.
I think it does help to do something where we're squeezing. But
something dynamic. I've never been a fan of all statics. I've never liked it. I've always worked pretty much some level of like full range and getting the body moving as opposed to just holding strong. Yeah,
for sure.
Yep.
Well,
so I was
going
to say that's the extent of my grip stuff. But I try to do I try things periodically, but I don't actively train, more or less.
You still able to grab a 100-pound dumbbell and curl it?
I actually, that's about how I gauge where my bicep strength is depending on, like, I got an 85 that weighs out pretty heavy, so I'll see how many reps I can do with that and how it feels in my arm. And, you know, like that 100-pound is like, I'll gauge, it's not an everyday thing. We'll put it like that.
Sure.
And I'll do sometimes like what I'll do is I'll sit down with my body upright, like leaning against an upright seat, like as if you're doing shoulder presses, and I'll pin my hand down with the dumbbell. Like I'll just leave my arm loose and my hand pinned, and my elbow will be at the side, and I'll try to just like curl up. I got 105, and I'll just kind of curl it up so with like zero momentum, but it's half range. It's from like your knee up. So I'll use that as a gauge to, you know, how I can handle that will be a gauge. But, yeah, I mean, I'm very curl heavy, so my biceps plenty strong.
Well, you and I have very similar philosophies when it comes to that, my friend, because I know, you know, you and I are two of the very few people who arm wrestled at any length that would preach to people about doing full range movements too.
Yeah, I mean, I just know it works for me, and I remember somebody like, well, you say Pete Milano, I believe part of why he hurt his biceps was because he was putting a tremendous load on it, and it was very strong in the spot that he developed that lock, but beyond like
enclosed.
Yeah, but beyond that range of motion, his body wasn't used to that. It wasn't used to being stretched a little bit. It wasn't used to load throughout the range. So when he, you know, I think part of that injury came from the lack of range.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer too, because Pete was he was really clicking at that point. Were you living in Connecticut at that point? I can't remember. Was that when you were with Timmy, or was it?
I think when I lived with Timmy, I think Pete might have been done or hurt.
Okay.
Here's me living in Connecticut with two great heavyweights, and they were both hurt when I lived there. Timmy had gone through his bicep detachment too.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
Right around the same time.
Yep, just me on the farm by myself, scared.
Well, you could have given me a call, Rob. I wasn't that far away.
Didn't you move out of
town
by then? I thought you were in Carolina by then.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, so never mind.
I most assuredly would have, because I mean I know that Frank wasn't. Connecticut was such a powerhouse for the sport, and then once people started trickling off and disappearing, it kind of like it dwindled a lot.
I took enough blame for that, Rob. But I will say that when I left though, that's when Ron Klemba started training at the Dungeon, and you guys had a bunch of good guys there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ron's a machine, and his accolades speak for themselves. Yeah.
So who do you have in training now?
I go to Badgers now. I'm up at Badgers now, and he gets a group of about let's say about anywhere from 20 to 30 guys. And
wow.
If you're smart and you can use the guys the right way, and you can kind of check your ego, which I think ego is the biggest devil in making progress in this sport.
Yeah.
And all those guys, you can work with them throughout the night. I mean, I walk out of there as beat up as anybody. I don't have to worry about anyone being as strong as me because I'm not there to try to manhandle people. I'm there to try to work. So with that many guys, I have no shortage of good training.
Do you ever pre-fatigue yourself before practice?
No. I went through the gauntlet of that. What I found out is I'm still trying to learn to use my body efficiently. Even though I've been at this a long time, I think there's always a learning curve. You're always, like, developing, like, trying to tighten up your game. And if I'm tired, I feel like if I go to practice sore or tired, it makes me pull a little sloppy. And then through that repetition, it becomes your habit. You know what I mean? So now my theory is to, like, go to practice feeling healthy and tight so my angles and everything are right. So when I get to a tournament, that's what I trained, is those proper angles, proper body alignment. But if you go when you're all tired, your repetition is doing things that are kind of like punky and sloppy. You know what I mean? And I don't want to build that habit.
Yeah, what I found was, like, unless Paul Walther was coming over, a lot of times what I would do was I would pre-fatigue my arms so that I had to work and think on the table with the guys at practice. I couldn't just, find an angle and manhandle them and stuff like that. It wasn't about pinning them as much as it was about, let me see if I can work out of this position.
Right.
Which you're right.
If you're smart, if you've got a brain, you can find a good way. If you've got a brain, you could find ways to work with anybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But,
yep.
So, yeah, does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Rob Vigeant Jr.?
No questions.
No, I don't think so.
No? Oh. Did you guys want to talk about some feats while we have Rob on the phone, or?
Yeah, there's definitely some feats we got to talk about. One of them in particular, if you guys don't mind that I start, I just saw this morning, Rob. Are you aware, Rob, that there's people like tossing inch dumbbells from hand to hand these days?
No, I am not aware of that, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then there's actually been a couple combinations of people tossing them, transferring them from one person to the next. So the first people that did it were Adam Glass and Tanner Merkel. You know that name, Tanner Merkel?
No, I don't.
He's a freaking beast, man. He's under 200 pounds. He's like an elite level climber, and he's come into grip sport, and he's beaten me 2 years in a row. He's the only person in the United States that beat me the last 2 years in the King Kong of Grip, which is the worldwide competition that everybody does. So Adam Glass picked up an inch dumbbell and released it, and then Tanner caught it. And then I saw a video this morning of a guy named Tommy Jennings picking it up and then releasing it, and Tanner catching it before it hits the ground. So it's one of those things that it's very, very hard. Luke and I have tried that probably a dozen times, and there's a factor there of not being able to, not only are you contending with the moving bell and not really sure where that bell's going to go and how it's going to rotate and all that stuff, but at the same time, with Luke, his shoulders are so big that I can't even really see the gripping part of the inch dumbbell, the actual handle. So it's really, really tough. So
I'm sure it's. I mean, I can imagine what is involved, and you'd also have to get two people who are, proficient inch lifters at it.
Yeah.
Not just people who've lifted it. They have to be lifting it pretty easy, I would imagine.
Yeah, no doubt. So that's two people that Tanner's done that feat with. I don't know what the occasion was that they were training like this weekend, but Tommy Jennings sent that to me. Just
I saw that.
Yeah, I saw that this morning too. Tommy's been back to grippers too. He's credit card setting threes, and I saw a video where he was bending some pretty serious wrenches with Robert and Jedd too. So Tommy's definitely training pretty hard these days.
Wow. Interesting.
Other than that, just to run down a few things, I saw that Martins Lisi's did like 530 pounds for like either 7 or 8 reps, double overhand on a regular barbell. I saw that Sean Capusta notched. He put a notch in a deck of cards with duct tape to wrap around it.
Yeah, he was at training yesterday, actually.
Oh yeah. Well, he's submitting videos for nationals. He wants to try to get up to the North American Championship in June.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday.
Yep, he's already submitted a couple videos. So
it's wild stuff, man.
Yeah, have we talked about Brian Shaw lifting the Millennium Dumbbell yet?
No, we haven't.
I don't think so. Last time we talked about him, it was with that half 150 York Legacy block.
Yeah, right. Rob, are you familiar with? Sorry to keep calling you out on this stuff. I just don't know if you're aware of some of the stuff that's gone on here recently, since you're not on social media. But are you familiar with the Legacy dumbbells that York came out with that are bigger than the 100s? No. So they came out with it's like another. They didn't make York dumbbells like with the with the blobbish shape for quite a while, and then I want to say around like 2010, 2011, they came out with these legacy dumbbells, which were blobbish in shape, but one side was much flatter than in the past, and one side was much more dome shaped than in the past. But I think so they came out with 100 all the way up to 150, and so the half 130 is called Blobzilla, the half 140 is called the Blobfather. The half 145 is the Gigantor Blob, and then the half 150 is the Shaw Blob. Brian Shaw is the only person to ever lift the 145 and 150. And
wow.
Yeah, he recently just did that. I got a bunch of them. I got a pair of 140s, a pair of 145s, and a pair of 150s from a dude in Massachusetts towards the tail end of February, and I sold one of the 150s to Brian Shaw's wife, and she gave it to him for his birthday, and he lifted it before they left the hotel room of the Arnold.
Wow.
Bastard.
That's cool. Yeah, I never even knew about this stuff. It's super cool.
Yeah, that's
though.
what I wondered. They've been around for a while, but you've also been highly concentrated on arm wrestling for so long.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if maybe that stuff slipped by you as kind of
yeah,
new,
it definitely
new
did. I mean,
feet
I was over here thinking that the Blob was cool. I was over here thinking the Blob was all right.
Yeah, nobody really cares about the Blob anymore. People they just throw their blobs in the river.
Well,
they got sick of them. They decorate them with they bedazzle their blobs and they just leave them outside.
Oh yeah. So you're telling me that the times have passed me by. I'm over here living in my own false reality.
Yeah. No.
not at all, Rob. We've established that.
Yeah, that's. I think if you were to just see what was going on and then get a blob, I think you'd be right back where everybody else is with the feats in a short time if you took the time to concentrate on them. So, and if you ever wanted to, you could certainly hit me up and I'd kind of give you an update as far as what some of the crazy standards are.
I like living in my own reality.
So do I, actually. So do I.
I just wake up and just tell myself I'm great. I don't need your numbers to make me feel self-conscious.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rob's going to hang up.
You already got me. You've already planted a seed. You're like Inception right now. You've already planted a seed where I'm going to be on the internet after we talk going, what the fuck? And then I'm going to be going out there trying to get, I need to spend money on Blobfathers and Blobzillas, and here we go.
Yep.
Definitely curious, though. I'm 100%.
Well, I've got all that shit at my gym, Rob, so if you ever wanted to take a road trip, I mean, you're more than welcome. Just let me know when you want to do it. So.
What are you? You're in PA?
Yeah, I'm in northeastern Pennsylvania.
That's not bad. I just drove down to PA, down to, what was it, High Spire, the Harrisburg area?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you probably came within, an hour of my house, probably.
Yeah. Yeah,
maybe even closer.
I get down there enough. I'll hit you up.
Yeah, that'd be great. I train, Luke. I train with him, and every once in a while.
You could even invite Storm. You could invite Storm over, and Rob and Storm could have it could be like the old 1980s Converse commercials with Magic and Larry Bird, where they could go head to head.
Oh, that would be amazing. That might actually get Storm to come up and train at the gym. So, sure.
Yeah.
So did you guys see a few weeks ago this Lucas Spillett kid? I mean, I say kid because he looks like he's about 18 years old. He trains with Brian Hunsacker, and he lifted those 777-pound stones he has. Did you see that?
Didn't catch that one, dude.
Yeah.
Nope.
No, me neither.
Well, it was pretty impressive, and I think he's going to take him over to try to lift the Denny's, because I don't know who the youngest person is to lift the Denny's.
No clue. Absolutely no clue.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, I don't want to cut you short, but I kind of on a little bit of a time crunch now, so I'm going to have to make a move.
Yeah, go ahead. Thanks
here,
for being on the show, Rob. And
yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, it was nice catching up with all you, and, feel free to reach out in the future.
Sweet, brother.
Yeah,
right,
Rob,
guys,
good to see you, man.
All right, thanks, man.
So, Rob Vigeant Jr., there you go.
He's hilarious.
He's colorful, huh?
Yeah.
Have you guys taken notice of the Sam Parker guy that's in the UK somewhere? He posts on the Grip Strength group. He does all kinds of crazy stuff with 245s or 220 kilo plates.
I've seen that name. That really sounded familiar to me for some reason, but I don't know where I can place him from. Is he on the grip board as like a different name? Because that just sounded really familiar, and I
honestly couldn't tell you, but he's doing some really, really big stuff with 220 kilo plates. Like he's training to clean them. Maybe some midair transfer stuff, and he just competed at the Europeans that just took place at the Grip Factory at David Horn's place, or maybe the British Championships. But he competed there. I don't know what he put up as far as numbers, but he's one to watch. I don't know that he's on Instagram. He might be, but I think mostly I've seen him on the Grip Strength group on Facebook.
Cool. Yeah, I have to check him out. Elizabeth Horn pinched those 2 20-kilogram plates and held them for like 4 seconds, too.
Yeah, dude, I've been racking my brain. I can't think of another woman that's lifted 2 20-kilo plates. There might be somebody out there, but I mean, the only person that even comes to mind that would be even close would be, if not Becca Roberts, then Amy Waddles. And I don't remember either one of them doing that feat.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's amazing for sure. I got to give a shout out to Rindo because he's been working on this for a while, pinching 245s with his offhand, and he finally pulled that off the other day. So,
yeah, he did.
Love to Rindo. And I know it's been a subject of controversy, but Joe Sullivan, 61.4-pound double hammer lever on a 32-inch handle. Unbelievable.
Well, I hadn't heard the controversy.
Yeah, what's the controversy about that?
Well, I guess there's been a few people who've said, well, you know, when Slim... Well, look, Joe Sullivan contacted me. I ended up talking to Dennis Rogers on, not so much on Joe's behalf, but I wanted to hear what Dennis's honest, objective opinion of it was. And you know, what Dennis had said was that, like, you know, whenever Slim went to do any kind of show, he never did shows with like the most that he could do, you know. And when he set the record at Madison Square Garden in the 70s, he did it on short. It was a 1-inch shorter handles, 31 inches, and they were bolted together. The handles were bolted together, just like Joe's. And you know, he did, I forgot what it was, but it was a few pounds less than what Joe did. And I know what Dennis had said was the best that Slim had ever done was in the 69-pound range on a 31-inch handle. So the controversy was, did Joe's arm dip a little bit? I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like, you know, you're going to get a little bit of arm dip, and I still don't even know. It's almost like we do it subjectively by sight, what is level and what isn't. Because I've seen photos of Slim where he's got his arms that look like they're pointed upwards. They're above level, and others where they look like they're dipped below level. But I don't know. There's controversy about it, and I think the big thing is someone got aggravated that Joe had said it was an unofficial world record or something. But you know,
well, there's a lot worse ways to put it than saying unofficial world record. I know. Most people just claim world record by doing a training lift. So dude, look, I didn't know there was any controversy going on. Like, if that's on the grip board, I haven't been on there, except for the grip contest section to update, like the you know, North American Championship stuff. So I don't know, but you know, I don't know what the standards are, but I'm sure if Joe would just train for the standards, he'll end up reaching what he wants to anyway, because he's just that good with the hammers. And that was the first time
he's better than anyone out there with the hammers.
Yeah, he was down there. He was down to my place Saturday, and we started talking about that feat. And I was like, well, I've got a pair of hammers at my house that I haven't used in, I don't know, like 2-3 years. So why don't you just take them and you can train on them? And that was the first time he used them. So he's, it's still early in the game for him. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know
really
either.
Strong wrists, really strong wrists. And I'll tell you, I think something about that feat that a lot of people may not realize, just because I think a lot of people haven't actually worked with a unit like that, but the handles are way too narrow for Joe. Like, optimally, for his maximum performance, and I don't know what the distance was for Slim's, maybe this is what Slim used, the distance, but, like, I know for me, and Joe is a little bit wider than me, like, it's too narrow. The handles are far too narrow to be comfortable, and I think it's a hindrance. If he could get wider, I think he'd get even more power. So
maybe that's the thing, is to get him to find his optimal width and try to, get a rig that fits his width better. And gosh, I mean, just give the guy his credit.
Well, that's kind of a weird thing for me. I guess I didn't follow it very close. Is it that unreasonable to think a guy nowadays could be stronger than somebody was, quite some years back?
Yeah, and I don't know
all
why.
The time.
And Joe seemed to be really respectful and gave all the credit to Slim, and even said, wow, Slim's been a guy who's really been a source of motivation for him and, an idol to him. And it's like, but look, a lot of people, they look in the rearview mirror and it's like, they see what they want. And, it gives them cognitive dissonance to think that somebody could be better, or to think that somebody could even creep close to the numbers that once were. So, I just want to give credit to Joe, because that was, as someone who's used heavy hammers and as someone who's trained with Robert Miller, who uses very heavy hammers, Joe is as good as there are out there. And I would be biased. I could say, well, Robert's just as good. Robert's a good friend of mine, but he's not as good. Joe is better with the hammers than I think anyone I've seen right now. So,
I agree. The only other feat that I have, guys, is, and I don't know when this was. I started this list within the last 2-3 weeks, but I saw that Andreas Brexa, one of the dudes that competed at the Arnold this year, got 8 reps on an Ironman axle with 200 kilos, which is 440 pounds.
Wow.
And he said he's working on a goal of 10 reps with that. So, man, that is just freaking crazy. There's someone who's doing that many reps with that weight. Now, I didn't see a weight. I didn't see him take and scale it, so I can't. Who knows how accurate that is? But still, I mean, I don't know why that guy would make something up, because he was up around that at the Arnold. So
that's amazing. Yeah, I have a couple I would mention, and then I'll list them off. James Fuller doing those transfers with that 100-pound York plate. Somehow he's able to grip underneath the lip on those things. I don't know how he does it. I have to pinch him when I do transfers with him, but he's able to get under the lip with his fingertips, and I don't know how he does it, but it's a pretty amazing feat that he does. Then David Horn, who pinched and cleaned 3 10-kilogram plates. That was a pretty impressive feat, I think.
Pinched and cleaned them, huh?
Yeah, I think, who was it? Was it Nick Rosendahl that did that recently, too? So,
what was it, 10-kilo plates? I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know if you guys follow Carl August Mertz, but he bent one of those Leviathan bars, that flat steel. It's like 47 inches long or something, but it's like, it's wide. It's like 60 millimeters by 12 or something, and it's a flat steel bar. So just want to give him some credit. And just one thing I thought of, and I'll leave you guys with this. I don't know if I mentioned this name when we were talking about guys who might be able to clean the inch. Mm-hmm. Joel Dirks. Did we talk about Joel as a potential inch cleaner?
We didn't discuss it. I think Joel has like fairly small hands for his body weight, right?
They're the same size. Yeah, he's in the 7.5 inch mark.
He does, but he manhandles that inch, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. He had mentioned before. I don't know that he's been trained. I wouldn't pass. I mean, he's strong. I would think if he trained for it, he could absolutely do it. But I remembered mentioning that to him once, and it was kind of like a new way kind of thing. Like that wasn't even sort of in his realm of something he could do. But like I said, within I mean, with some actual dedicated training towards it, I don't know why that wouldn't be a possibility. He's
a monster. I mean, he's so strong, and I guess the hand size plays that big of a deal. But wow.
Well,
so anyway, that's all I got, guys.
The other guy you're out there training with, Alan, Muscle Link, didn't he put up something recently saying that that's one of his overall goals is to clean the inch or to clean two at the same time or something like that?
Well, I don't know about cleaning. There was something he was talking about cleaning. I don't know if it was more or less cleaning the baby inch. I don't know about cleaning the inch at his. Yeah, he's also seriously strong. He's a lighter body weight too. I wouldn't put anything past him. I guess capability wise, what he could do one day if he trained for it. He doesn't do a lot of dedicated grip training. He just shows up and he happens to be good at it. I think whatever he put his mind to and the effort in, he'd probably accomplish. But he's working on some block weight type stuff right now. But that's about it. Yeah, otherwise, dumbbells, I don't know that he mentioned anything about that in particular. So,
maybe I'm making that up in my head, too. I'm not sure.
Well, his goals change quite a bit, kind of like a flavor of the week sort of thing. He'll see something and he wants to try. Especially he'll see something you do in particular, Jedd, and then he'll want to try it and see.
Right.
So that's what spurs a lot of that stuff when he comes over. He always has things in mind that he wants to hit.
I gotcha.
So,
yeah. I could be thinking of someone different too. The only other thing that I wanted to bring up, guys, before we go is I don't know how much you guys could use another $1,000. I don't know if you got something you want to buy or if that'll help you out with your bills or something. But Mark Nolan just posted on my timeline last night and tagged me and Andrew Durney at. There's some kind of CrossFit challenge out there. I'm just going to read it to you. Can you walk 400 meters carrying 50-pound dumbbells? A, if not, how far can you go before setting them down? And B, what are the heaviest dumbbells you can carry for 400 meters? A $1,000 prize will be awarded for the heaviest successful 400-meter carry. One for men and one for women. Do it on a track, upload video to YouTube, and post a link to 190505 comments by midnight Sunday, May 12th. So if you're going to do this, you better get on your horse.
Yeah,
After the carry, practice controlled descents from a handstand for 10 minutes. Nah, I'm not going to do that. But I'll sure try the carry, so I don't know if you guys
that's what I was just thinking. But I thought for a second it was $1,000 if you could carry 50 pounds in each hand for 400 meters. Because I was like, I'm going to go do that now. You know what I mean? But how heavy
that doesn't seem too hard to me, does it? I mean, I don't know.
400 meters? I don't know. That's a ways, though, isn't it?
It's one way. It's one time around the track. You can get on the center lane and go around the track one time. I checked.
It's a quarter mile, yeah.
Yeah, my buddy. I asked my buddy Mark, and he confirmed it's just one trip around the track.
Yeah, 400 would be.
I mean, maybe look, dude, my stamina with support isn't that great, but I mean, it doesn't seem like too out of this world to carry 50 pounds a real far ways.
Well, if Rob was still on the call, he would actually be doing it right now with the phone pinned up against his ear.
Well, why do you think I waited to even bring this up until after he hung up, dude?
Good point. Touche.
So that was on my timeline, and I just approved it. So it's definitely there. So if anybody wants to check it out, check my timeline out on Facebook. But I mean, it could be an easy $1,000 for somebody.
Yeah,
you should go for it. Yep.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go for it. It's just a matter of getting to a track without, I've got my daughter this week. My wife is she's actually on her way to Argentina right now for work, so it's going to be tricky kind of coordinating all that. I might have to do it during the day. But
you don't have a treadmill in your gym? You can't just grab weight in your hands and march on that for 400 meters?
I don't know. How dare you even possibly insinuate that I would have a treadmill in my gym, Alan? You and I are not friends anymore. No. I mean, I suppose I could do laps, but I don't know. I'd hate to walk. I'd hate to walk like inches for 400 meters, and then just making them, just going back and forth in my gym, and then they'd say, "No, we said you have to be on the track." That would really upset me. So.
Yeah.
But
good stuff.
So that's it, gents. Anything else?
Well, yeah, my last feat, Valeri T's Mash Monster 7 cert. Huge congrats to him. I can't remember how many people are actually on that particular list. Now, it's not many, though. 10 maybe? I don't know. It's not many at the most, right?
Yeah.
For level 7? Jeez.
Yeah.
Are there really 10 people?
Well, we got Paul Knight, Tim Struess. I know there's Chaz Wright, Vano Saakashvili, Morgan Choi, Valeri T. So now we're at 6. I thought there was a couple others on there.
Huh. Interesting.
I could be wrong. It might be an exceptionally high number, but I knew it was. There's a few people on there anyway now.
Yeah.
So, but
that's huge.
Anyway, big congratulations to him. Yeah, that was.
For sure.
That's something. So, we'll see what's next.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, appreciate you hooking us up with that interview, James. That was really good.
That was fun.
Nice to hear from Rob again.
I had a feeling it would be.
Cool. Well, the show's yours, Alan. Take it away.
All right. Well, that's it for episode 93 of This Week in Grip. Thanks for listening, everybody. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Comment down below, and we'll be back next week with another one.